Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Leadership Voices. I'm your host, Jacob Geller, calling in here from Montreal, Canada. When I look outside, we're after 5 p.m. and there's still a glimpse of light out there. It's given us hope as we march on into this well into the back half of the school year here. The winter break long in the rearview mirror now, but we can taste spring break, we can taste March break, and if you really, close your eyes and think about it, you can taste summer break coming up. And is that scary or is it exciting? We don't really know. Lots going on, lots to accomplish by the end of this year. And many leaders, like the leader we're going to have today, I'm sure is already thinking about next year, right? And thinking about the 3 year plan and thinking about the 5 year plan. It's the Super Bowl week, which for us in education means the ASA conference back in Nashville this year. But of course, we mean the real Super Bowl as well. Maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we won't. I'm excited with our guests today. Coming in, this is our first guest coming in the last couple of years from Illinois, and coming in from the school district of U46. We're going to talk about his title, so I'm going to leave that for a question. But welcome to the show, Dr. Christopher Sanzeri. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. How's your day going so far?
Doing pretty well. Like we last week, I think we had our first sunset after 5 o'clock, like you said, and as you were mentioning that, I was like, yes, we
I
are.
know.
It's a great feeling that
Hope is back.
we're here. Yes.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for being here. We're excited to hear about your journey. We're excited to hear about your district, the second largest district in Illinois, covering a diverse and large population. And so we want to hear all about the opportunities and challenges that can present. But before getting started, I left your title out of the introduction. For those of my friends that don't live in org charts all day and study org charts, your title is, and then correct me if I'm wrong, Assistant Director of Specialized Student Services in Curriculum Instruction. Just a short little title.
Just the short, yes.
So sounds like you probably do one really specific thing. You definitely don't wear a bunch of hats. But no, tell us, let us into your world a little bit. Tell us about your role at the district.
Yeah, thanks. Love to. So my title is actually the third longest title out of all of our
Wow.
250 administrators that we have. Yeah. Within the district, and I don't need to get into why I know that, but in my role, Specialized Student Services is our umbrella department that supports our special education, our health services, and our 504 plans. So within that, we have our director, and then we have different assistant directors that kind of take different areas. Right, so there's an operational one that they focus on staffing and related services, on curriculum instructions. So, that role focuses on the programming, the learning, the professional development, like the students in the classroom pieces of special education. And then we have like a compliance assistant director whose role is for when those IEP meetings start getting tough, they come in and work their magic and work with the families and the teams that when we're making sure that we're being legally compliant with our IEPs.
Okay, great. So that's a little bit of a window into your world. We'll hear about the district in a moment, but what I want to hear about is you to begin with. I imagine that you have students maybe as early as grade 9, maybe earlier, that you've got sitting in classrooms making career plans for themselves. I don't know how many of them are writing down Assistant Director of Specialized Student Services, Curriculum Instruction. And so I think what we'd love to hear about it, because it's never a linear journey, is how did you go from whatever you thought you were going to do when you were 13, 14 into this work that you're working on today? And I'm guessing it wasn't always the plan.
No, no, it wasn't. In so many ways it was though.
Okay,
Um,
let's hear about it.
yeah, I had uh, at some point in high school, I just had known I was a student athlete, whether it was baseball, football. Football was my main sport, but track and field, and I left high school. I was at some point in high school, I decided I was going to be a teacher. And so I went off to college and university, played football, and was going to be a high school social studies teacher because that was my favorite subject. And although I did not care much for school as a student, I enjoyed social studies and all of history. Um, so within those first 3 years of college, I get a job working as a paraeducator with high school students in different all sorts of disabilities, with just maybe helping out with some learning disabilities and some academic support, working with some students with emotional disabilities and some co-taught settings, and then spending some of my time for like our more functional and life skills based classrooms for students with intellectual disabilities. About 6 months on that job, a lot of the teachers, and they all knew I was going to be a teacher and wanted to be a coach. And They're like, Chris, you're really good at special ed. And you should probably switch majors. And about another semester into that, I was like, this is really I'm enjoying this. I'm having a good time. So then I switched majors, became a special education teacher, and then really the sum of like from special education teacher to an assistant director that's focusing on curriculum instruction is I got really good at what I was doing in my classroom. I had years and years of tuning it, fine tuning it, and it was some of like my explicit instruction and the direct instruction pieces that I was giving were like so rote that like anybody like the language I was using, everything was so timed and perfect that I was like, I need to more people need to be able I want more people to do what I'm doing. So that's where I need to become an administrator then so I can start influencing more
Right.
classrooms into that way. And then it's just been a continual journey of trying to take the best of what I know and have the largest positive impact for students and get people to do that.
Got it. Well, we're
Yeah.
gonna come back to that about the move from the one classroom and some students into a system and some of the choices that I'm sure you have to face when you're thinking about scaled operations versus in one classroom. But let's go back that to there. Our intro we talked about the district as the second largest district in Illinois, serving if unless I'm wrong, around 35,000 students or so. That nod means yes for the folks
Yep.
that are just listening. So we're close enough. Tell us, paint the picture a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the community. Maybe by the numbers, and also, maybe something we couldn't find out by googling it.
So we cover over 90 square miles west of Chicago. Different communities of towns we go into full towns and communities. There's just parts of other towns and villages. With that, we have like 120 different languages that are spoken within our school district. So with that, we pretty much I would say about 77, well, about 50% of our students are EL.
Oh wow,
And then about 70% of our students are in dual language programs one way or the other. So it's a large bilingualism, and multilingualism is a huge piece to our school district, just based on what we believe is best for children and the result of the population of the students that are within our school district. But we're at an interesting point in the school district overall. We've had a declining enrollment. We have a forecasted of declining enrollment, and with that, it's allowed for some interesting opportunities where starting next school year, we've had a massive rebounding project within the school district. We've had huge multi-million, tens of hundreds of millions of capital improvements projects where we're building new schools for the first time in 20 years. We're closing and
oh wow,
retiring schools that have been around from the 1860s. So it's just a great opportunity. And another impact with the boundary changes is for the first time in our school district's history, we're moving sixth grade out of the elementary schools and bringing them into the middle school for the first time. And so all the work and growing pains and planning and everything to make this happen and have our students, all our schools ready and our students ready for the first day next in this fall has been like a massive undertaking by like everybody in the district. And um, every change that we're making here is just going to improve our students' experience tenfold.
that's great. And it sounds like intentional work. It sounds like responding to the demographics of the community as well, whether it is the multilingual programs or the boundaries or the closing of schools. And I want to talk a bit about that. We don't talk enough about it on this show. The reality of closing schools and building new ones and breaking ground. It's never done because it's just a fun idea to do something like closing a school, right? And so maybe you could speak a little bit about what goes into that, and more the community management piece of it. Because I've talked to superintendents, not on the show, but where there's been picket lines of families, surrounding an elementary school that's getting closed, and it's very emotional, right? Maybe their parents went there, and their youngsters are at that school now. But ultimately, it's in the service of a better education, hopefully a more equitable education, a use of resources in a way that makes more sense. So,
Yes.
do you mind just speaking a little bit on those decisions, which are not taken lightly by leadership?
For some of our buildings, it comes down to what the renovation costs would be needed, right? Like I said,
Right.
we have some very, very old buildings. And so while the decision to close those as opposed to remodeling, is really just money based. But then the planning that goes into that is so much more thoughtful and purposeful and emotional. And I've found that as with our most recent schools that are closing, that there will have 3 elementary schools that'll close this school year, and it has just been like a celebration.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
every
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, and the families, the communities, the principals, the former principals and former staff, like, they have celebrated the history of the building and cherished it and had celebrations and, monthly celebrations in certain buildings, and just it's been a really positive experience for those families within the community. And due to like the neighborhood school model that we have and the rebounding, students aren't going outside of their community. Like, so they're
Great.
still within their neighborhoods.
Beautiful. I remember when I graduated elementary school and up here, it is grade 6 for us, elementary school, and, they closed the school the year after, just I think it was a declining enrollment or a zoning thing, and it became I think an adult ed center, and we had done this project, like a mural, and they moved the mural from that school over to the local library, and I remember for years I would go see it. I would see I think I made like a peace sign out of lima beans and kidney beans or something like that, but it sticks with me. So I think there was work to celebrate the history of that specific school, and so sounds like you all are way ahead of the game on that front. So it sounds like it's going smooth enough. I'm sure there's always bumps in the road,
Yes.
but smoothly and with intention. I want to go back to even the way you were speaking about it. When you hear about what about going into specialized ed, and you're sort of there's almost a hesitation. I don't know if it's a stigma around it. I don't know if it feels like the side dish of the education world in many ways. But talk to me a bit about the role that spec ed plays within a school district, because I think it can often be forgotten and not and maybe viewed as kind of this little side cart, but it really is key to the overall instruction and mission of a school district.
Yes. Absolutely. Um, when I it's just let's just focus in on like that at the building level with the special education team that's there. You know, they I have seen some wonderful, beautiful things where this special education team is really driving that school improvement plan. They're the ones, our degree, our certification, it's not a special education teacher degree. It's a learning behavior specialist, right? Fundamental strength of teaching content and is that's not our practice. Our practice is taking that content and breaking it down for all different types of learners. And that allows us to be problem solvers when within a building when we have something's rising up. We don't, our gen ed teachers struggling with something with their students. They can always reach out to a special educator, get a little feedback, think about how to do things, differentiate that lesson that they tried and wasn't working, or they need to reteach again. They special educators are an asset and a tool to every single building. Like they offer just that ability to take something and break it down into multiple ways of presentation or multiple ways to have a student represent how that is. And it's not always at the forefront of the general education teacher's mind.
Definitely not. It's a super teacher at your disposal when necessary to zoom in, zoom out, think about it differently. What about the side door? I think one of my favorite quotes from a leader that we worked with years ago was just that we often set the bar too low for kids, and so the idea of like if you tell every kid to write this essay, many kids will look like they don't know how to do that. But if you told every student explain that you understand Y or X, right? And then give the freedom to express yourself in different ways. I think that it's just you get a lot more out of students. I think schools are moving in that direction. Something that used to be viewed as for independent schools or alt schools has really made it in to mainstream public education. Um, you've been doing this work a little while now. I'd love not to put us back into the masks and back into COVID land, but I'm curious from your seat, such a unique position in a district. How have you seen the spec ed world evolve, if at all, since COVID and since the pandemic and the learning loss that we saw there?
Well, I think the general consensus is that it was not a good experience for our students with different learning needs.
Yeah,
Um, if reflecting on that time was not quality instruction, it was barely any instruction. Um, And I think we've recognized that. And what I'm even seeing as we look at our any new curriculum projects I'm working on today, like my part of my focus with that is to get students off screens. So instead of having any computer-based curriculum, I'm looking for opportunities to put a teacher in front of a student and have them provide them some sort of practice, give them some sort of instruction skill, right? Not worksheets, not simply just taking something off the computer and printing it off, but of like authentic learning experiences using different multi-sensory strategies to engage students. We've made our kindergartners this school year. We have part of their curriculum we only allow them 30 minutes a day of screen time.
Wow.
So that includes whole group display board, smart display board screen time can only be up to 30 minutes a day. And just like with what we've had success previously in our middle schools, no cell phones allowed. Our students are responding to not being just left on the computer during a class period. They enjoy they enjoy interacting with each other. They enjoy interacting with face-to-face humans. They enjoy interacting with each other in academic teaming. They're craving that when
Yeah.
everything else in their world can be just screen time.
Yep, definitely. Um,
Yeah.
I think, even at home, my wife and I, our big New Year's thing is deleted all our social media, which felt really scary at the start of the year and has really, a month in, provided significant mental clarity. It was not easy. We read a book called How to Break Up with Your Phone, and game changer, right? And so I think this natural bounce back from such a digital world has been felt, and is being felt. There's a yearning for it. There's a yearn for a back to basics
Yes.
type of connection, that some of your students, if they were 7 years old when things went crazy, it's a pretty important part of their life that they've been without a lot of that, or at least overcorrected in one direction.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to go and take a look at. I care a lot about board goals and or district strategic plans, specifically the words that are in them and the order that they get listed in. We're talking a little bit about academics here, but not too much. And so I wanted to think about, at school district U46. Here's the first two goals, right? Building early academic and social emotional foundations, and then goal two: safety, set, and sense of belonging and inclusion. None of that sounds like algebra 1, right, to me, and so, and I think that's intentional, so talk to me about, how you think about starting with the human first, and delivering on those things before speaking about, hammering and skill and drill and all these different practices of education.
Yeah, yes. When we look at that, when we go to that first goal, right? That's our within there. The metrics to success do include that foundational literacy, foundational math, and the foundational SEL skills that are in there. But that's the recognition that our early childhood and our preschool programs and kindergarten, first, second grade, those have to be those are our most important years. That sets
Yeah,
the foundation for
yeah,
the rest of the student's experience, right? We, um, I just remember just when we were at that point in developing the district strategic plan, um, I was just so passionately having the passionately talking about how important that we need to call out this for goal number one. And we have to stress this as the importance because without it, it just in my world, without it, it leads to an increase of IEPs. It leads to more students being identified with a disability because they are not responding to any other interventions or they're not getting that appropriate tier one instruction at the right age. And that's leaving gaps that get wider and wider as they get older. But then it's just not even aside from that. It's just for me, it's just having those just foundational skills, and it is calculation. It is the coding skills. It's sharing, collaborating, asking for help. Those are just the basic tools that we could carry with us and will lead us to success, school and beyond. Um, and then as we move into the second goal, and it is that it's that sense of belonging where we recognize the importance of every child having an adult that they can go to in their school. We give a panorama survey, and our results consistently show slight increases of percent or two year to year, but we're about 45% of our students feel like they belong in our school district. And plenty of different reasons when you tease out that data why they made those decisions. That relationship and that impact of the relationship then allows for that our third goal with that academic success and rigor and mastery. Without having that relationship, there's no any drilling that you're doing,
Yeah.
any fluency work that you want to try to implement is not going to happen. It's not
Yeah.
going to land.
I love it. And for those following along at home, goals 3 and 4 are academic growth and mastery, and then ready to embrace a diverse and changing world. And when you kind of follow it from 1 through 4, that sort of feels to me, and maybe this was intentional, like a starting point and a ramp that sort of sends humans out into the world that we can all be
Absolutely,
proud
yes.
of. So I think there's a lot of intentionality in that design that stuck out to me. So I'm happy you were ready to talk about it and passionate about it as well. Um, you mentioned a word, a buzzword. The word is tier. You said tier 1, but we're going to talk about all the tiers. Where
Okay.
not TEAR but TIER. It's maybe one of the buzzwords of the last decade in education is the MTSS framework. Folks that listen to this will be familiar with that. But I'd love to hear from your seat, how does MTSS framework and equitable interventions in a world where you're designing specific interventions for students with different needs and different profiles, and above 50% multilingual learners and an overrepresentation of students of color with IEPs? That is a puzzle. So how do you take this beautiful idea of the triangle of MTSS and bring it across a system that has so much diversity in it?
Yes. It's
Yeah, you can answer that quickly, right? That's like a one-word answer.
yes. No, we are right in the thick of this question last week and this week and next couple of weeks as a district, as it concerns the literacy with the conversation in our and as a district, what has been a pain point for not only tier one curriculum and but any interventions as well has been the availability of it in English and Spanish, and then more recently I would say past 3 years they're really stressing culturally responsiveness and the practices that are embedded in there, and ensuring that the curriculum that we are bringing in is culturally responsive to all of our students in our population of our demographics for our entire district. So those pieces like are kind of not even check boxes, because I would say that's what it was. But as we've been having these conversations now, especially with this most recent one around literacy, we've gotten to a place where understanding that what our best English literacy intervention is, and may not be one little packaged piece. Um, I think as it may not, it may be the best for English, and maybe it's only the best for phonemic awareness and decoding and fluency, but maybe it's not good for comprehension. So
Right.
what else are we going to do about comprehension at that time? But then additionally, we want to say it's just what is available in Spanish. But we also have to recognize that what is the best product, the best intervention in English, and the best product that we have in Spanish may still have two different outcomes. And that's just like having this conversation to do the research and the funding, the need for this uh, Spanish language interventions
Yeah.
not as robust as an English language is. In my world, there is many Orthan Gillingham aligned dyslexia, multisensory explicit instruction literacy curriculums, many in English.
Yeah.
There's one in Spanish that's
Wow.
aligned to any Orthan Gillingham principles. And so I'm limited with that. There are none that teach both English and Spanish. So that I need both. And while I have choices, I have an opportunity to work with and pick the best one in English. I need to see how this only option will work for us to teach for our Spanish students as a special education intervention, possible tier 3 intervention.
100%. To all the entrepreneurs listening, you heard it. It's time to start a company that does that. You know, the interventions in Spanish aligned for these students, because this is not the only district that's facing that. And you know, so
Yes.
that's really surprising to hear that. You know, dozens and dozens and then one. That's really that's shocking. I didn't know that. And I'm in this world, right? That's, you know, we're in the MTSS world. So that's crazy. I want to talk a bit about the challenges of being pretty big as a district, and how you balance from your, because you've been in the school site, you've been in the classroom, but how do you balance when you're thinking about designing systems that you want to be consistent and of course uniform, whether it's curriculum or you know technology devices, but every school and every classroom, every learner is different as well, and you know there's a lot of research around giving the site principal more authority over decisions around their interventions or how they're designing special ed. How do you balance deciding when to go central and when to kind of hand the power over of here how you guys take the funds or the resources and go ahead and make your own plan?
So our central district perspective is we have a menu. We
Oh,
create
nice.
we
Okay.
create we create the menu of options. So we have a literacy menu, we have a math menu, and we have an SEL menu for tiered interventions. So if you're at a building and as these teams get together and meet, if you find that um, students, you know, in this area, you need this intervention, you have a couple different options to work with. And how you decide on that is left up to that building team, to that administrator. But we allow them to have that choice with it.
That's it's great. But I know it has its complexities too, right? My dad was a principal for 20 years, and so sometimes he would be annoyed that he had to do those things. Sometimes he's annoyed that the central office is putting something into his school that he didn't want. I'm like, you just sound annoyed both times, but it's okay. You know, it's a reality of the position. The principal's a hard role, right? It's a
Yes.
you're dealing with runny noses and schedules and humans, adults, parents. It's a tricky one.
And especially in a school district of 56 schools and
Yeah,
56 principals and another 100 district administrators, there's a lot of people telling
yeah,
telling you a lot of things. And we've done a nice job of really ensuring that we have Um, so we've restructured a lot of administrative positions 3 years ago. We've done a nice job making sure that communication flows nicely, and it's cut out a lot. Like, well, this team is saying this, and this special ed saying this, and curriculum is saying this, and the multilingual department saying this, and it's all gets flowed nicely, and that's helped a lot, caused a lot less confusion with the building principals, and then getting that information out to the teachers. Then,
great.
yeah,
Um, that's so that and that's some of the qualitative feedback you'll get. I'm curious. You mentioned a bit before when we were talking about the goals, some of the different data points that you look at. You know, if we had, you know, Dr. Chris, which you told me not to call you, but I'm going to say it anyways. If we had Dr. Chris's dashboard, what are the metrics you're looking at that you know that to know let you know that you and your team are doing a good job?
we're looking at our the highest level. We started with our state assessment data, and we want
Okay.
to see we're looking at student proficiency within that, but then also um, we look at student growth within their state assessments year to year. The growth piece for us is important because we recognize that our students have a disability because there's something that is impacting their academics. So their academics are impacted, so it's going to be lower proficiency, may or may not be attainable. When it does become proficient, I feel the question is, do we need to continue receiving special ed services there? But that's one data point, right? But they, anyway, I'll digress. Um, we'd like to look at the growth and then continue again. We look at our universal screener benchmarking that happens 3 times a year, and then focused on that growth. Where is our growth? Ideally, I want to be in positions that we're in accelerated growth, where like most recently is I've dug into our middle of the year growth data in the benchmark, and as a district, we were sitting at about it was 59 within literacy. We were at 59% uh, of annual typical growth for this time of year, which is like right on, a little bit higher average, the normative average for the I ready assessment was 50% this time of the year when we took the data. So we're a little bit above. And then specialized student services, all our students with IEPs, we were at 47%. So we're like right there, feeling pretty good about it. But
Right.
then I went in and then I started looking at our different interventions and where we're using them. And I was able to look at students who are receiving this intervention and then students who are receiving this intervention and kind of compare the two. Um, and I've seen some varying huge differences in results. I want to see accelerated. I want to see above 50%. If we're providing a specialized intervention, we need to be accelerating the learning so we can close this gap. And I've seen some of our interventions, our lowest on the low end, we've got 22% growth in one intervention tool. Something's not working there. So
Right.
I'm like, got to investigate that. But then in another one, we have 88.5% growth, far exceeding any other intervention that we have. And because I just will start wrapping my mind around statistics. I want to make sure that guys different end sizes. So I try to see you get into a little bit more if there are any differences. And it's like, yeah, there's definitely differences when you're seeing something that large. Um, so it's I get into those. We're talking about the overall within the districts or within our buildings or within their networks of buildings. But additionally, uh, all of my specialized curriculums, they all have different tools for student progress that we look at, different tools for teacher implementation. So we have like fidelity checks that are built into the programming. We also have student data that comes out from it. Um, and I feel like I'm constantly pulling that type of data. So it's always on always on my dashboard to answer that
It might
question.
need to be a pretty big dashboard. You might need
It
a small font on your dashboard, I think.
it does continue to grow. I've got it set up. I got different. I can quickly just tab out different, so it's clean on a page, but there's a lot of tabs that are in there.
Great. Well, it's, anything that's not measured is optional, right? So it's,
Yeah.
that's one of the things we always say here. As we come towards the end of this time together here today, you seem excited. You seem hopeful for the school district, for your work. Give me one or two projects that you're involved with right now that you're really excited about, and let us know what you're working on.
Oh well, I'll give you the short project that I just wrapped up, um,
Okay.
and and I think it's just going to have, and it's not it wasn't huge. Okay, so um, we've had, it was, like I've said, we've had about 50% of our district is EL learners. We have like
Yeah.
70% of our students are in a dual language program or multilingual, bilingual students. And long before my time in the district, we've 2009, 8, 9, even maybe before then, um, we've had our for the position called the bilingual itinerant, and they are our bilingual crosscat resource teachers. So these are elementary teachers, but they're itinerant based. And 20 years ago, yes, they may have had two, three students in a building, and they were spread out sometimes over 6 buildings. Well, as this population kept changing, they had their own staffing model. They were always itinerant assigned by the person in my position, the staffing, the buildings they were assigned to. Um, and when I've taken this role, and we have 23 of these positions available. 16 of them are only in one building, and the rest of them are in 2 buildings. So I just put proposals together, did some work, and I've got their position changed to now where they are going to be not itinerants and they're going to be bilingual, cross categorical resource teachers. And they're building assigned. They're again, they may still be in 1 or 2 buildings if the case numbers are low enough. But I've also got their caseload, their casework assigned, aligned to what our monolingual resource teachers are doing. And so it is like just a simple project and it's staffing and operationals based. But now we have staff that are going to feel a part of the building instead of someone that
Yeah.
just comes and visits. Now we have them equitably aligned to their monolingual peers and their caseloads. So, like, to me, it's going to equal better delivery of services. Lower caseloads for these staff. You know, more time to implement more minutes with fidelity. It's gonna change. It's a small, but it's a pivotal point in like
Yeah.
the history of this district's bilingual special education. And I'm just so thrilled. Like, I presented it in such a way that was clear. Like, yes, this is absolutely, like, there was no pushback at all. So it was simple in that I didn't have to fight for it. It just made sense and it was the right thing to do for our staff, which will then increase results for our students. So that's the one I just completed. And then the other the other project that I haven't delved into, as we talked about our boundary shifts. And when the planning first began with all of this, our planning, the top brass came to us and said, we're closing these schools, sixth grades moving up. Before we reboundary any of our schools, we want you to place your special education classrooms in what schools and how many do you want in each building. So we got to pick, for the first time ever I've ever heard, we got to pick what schools we want, what programs to go into,
Wow.
and the district upheld that commitment to it. And so their process is special. I got to pick what schools we want to put our classrooms into. Our early learners got to pick what preschools classrooms go into their schools, and then we guarantee, then we reduce the rooms by, art has their own room, music has their own room, and so all our specials have an actual space instead of doing it on a cart. Then whatever classroom space was available, that's what impacted the rebounding. That was huge as part of the work that we got to do, and the commitment that the district upheld with that is just amazing. But then we saw this as an opportunity. So we have three different programs. An exceptional needs program, which is our students' life skills based, moderate and severe intellectual disabilities. We've got an instructional learning program, which we would most easily just describe as like an autism characteristic based program.
Got it.
And then our modified learning program is the MLP. That's for mild to moderate intellectual disabilities. Well, three different programs spread across 90 square miles and 56 schools. We have students going to all these different programs all over. And while we can get them a little bit closer now with these different programs, we looked at, it's the same alternate curriculum we're using in all these programs. It's the same coaching support that we're using. We have the same classroom setups in all these programs. So we decided to merge them all into one multi-abilities classroom, in a MET classroom that's rolling out this
Wow.
upcoming school year. So the work that our team, the district has put into it, has just been from the idea, from the name, all the way to now. We've got a year, almost the rest of this school year, the summer into the fall, into November. We've got a professional learning plan, pathways built out for all stakeholders within the district. We've got an instructional implementation guide that we're building, continuing to build, and hopefully have a great working draft, solid final draft, ready in May, that a Mac teacher can take, building principal can take, and they'll know exactly what needs to go into this classroom, the practices, the strategies to use, the visual supports, everything. It's there for them in a manner this is why we're doing it. This is how you do it. It's or how you plan for it, and this is how you actually do it in the moment in instruction. And that creates for us, that's just creating alignment across all the buildings. That's consistent expectations, the consistent classroom setups, consistent delivery of the curriculum.
It's equitable intentionality. That's what I keep
Yes.
hearing, and I can see it on your face as the way you're thinking about it. Like, I just think the design of this work, your first project, the one that's just completed or rolling out now, it's not a simple project. Maybe it's simple, in scope, but in impact and in intentionality, it's huge, and it can be huge. Um, and what could it change for, I like that you even highlighted for the staff sense of belonging there, but then for the
Yes.
student down the line, and how big does how many students do you have to change their lives for it to be considered a big project? Some people might say one, right? And so it's just really, it's exciting to hear that work that you're doing. I'm excited to check back in November, or May, or not May, September, but in the new school year,
In the
right? And
fall,
see,
yes.
yeah, and follow up and see how this is all rolled out, because that's not a small project by any
No,
definition, right? That's a big
no.
project
Yeah.
um, that you're
Our
running. But
yeah.
as we come towards end of time here, any last things you want to leave with the listeners? You've given us so much already.
If we want to have improved outcomes, we want meaningful outcomes for our students, then that means that we need to have meaningful support from our district administrators. And that's being intentional, that is being supportive, that is listening, and that is giving the tools to the teachers that they need to lead the instruction every single day in their classroom. And just ensuring that what we're doing and what we want to do is to make our teachers give them everything they need to be the best for those students.
I love it. Well, that's closing thoughts here. Dr. Christopher
Yeah.
Sanzeri, Assistant Director of Specialized Student Services, working in curriculum instruction as well at the school district of U46, second largest school district in Illinois. Chris, thanks so much for being part of the show today. I know you're a busy guy, so you got a lot in the works, but I think people hearing your stories will appreciate you taking the time. So thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, Jacob, thank you so much for having me. This was a really great time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.